Picture this: a world where women had no choices. Their futures were decided by their families or society. For many, joining a convent wasn't about faith, it was survival. But what happens when the walls of religion become too suffocating? When human desires clash with sacred vows? These questions take us deep into the hidden lives of medieval nuns, whose stories reveal a side of convent life far removed from the pious image we often imagine. Today, we uncover the untold stories of these remarkable women who defied the rules, broke their vows, and rebelled against the very system that sought to control them. From secret love affairs with priests or fellow nuns to daring escapes like Sister Joan of Leeds, who faked her own death to flee the confines of her vows. These acts of defiance highlight the resilience and courage of women in oppressive circumstances. We'll explore scandals such as those at Littlemore Priory, where luxury and forbidden relationships exposed the hypocrisy within religious orders. These weren't just tales of sin, they were acts of resistance, born out of the unbreakable desire for freedom and autonomy. Are you ready to discover the hidden side of convent life? The truth may surprise you and inspire you to see how even in the most restrictive environments, the human spirit can find ways to reclaim its power. Let's jump in together. For most women, entering a convent wasn't a choice, it was a sentence. Families used convents to preserve wealth, avoid unfavorable marriages, or simply because there were no other options. Once inside, nuns took 3 sacred vows: chastity, obedience, and silence. These promises seemed simple on the surface: dedicate your life to God, submit to authority without question, and remain silent in devotion. But behind closed doors, life wasn't so holy. The reality of convent life was far more complex than the pious image it portrayed. These vows weren't just spiritual. They demanded the suppression of basic human desires. Imagine being told your body is sinful and your feelings must be silenced forever. For young women filled with natural curiosity, longing for intimacy, and yearning for connection, this was an impossible burden to bear. The vow of chastity wasn't just about rejecting marriage. It was about denying their own bodies, suppressing desires that made them human. Obedience meant surrendering autonomy, submitting completely to the will of others. Silence ensured their voices went unheard, erasing any chance of expressing dissent or desire. It's no wonder some nuns found ways to rebel. Despite the strict rules and constant surveillance, many discovered secret avenues to reclaim their humanity. Some entered into illicit relationships with priests or fellow nuns, finding solace and affection where they could. Others engaged in acts they believed brought them closer to God, blurring the line between sin and spiritual ecstasy. Sister Benedetta Carlini, for example, claimed divine inspiration for her passionate affair with another nun, convincing herself and others that their love was sanctioned by heaven. Her story highlights how deeply personal struggles can lead to bold acts of defiance. Not all rebellion involved romance. Some nuns sought freedom through escape. Take Sister Joan of Leeds, who faked her own death to break free from the confines of convent life. Disillusioned with her forced existence, she arranged for her body to be paraded through the streets in a coffin while she slipped away unnoticed. Though eventually caught, her audacity remains a testament to the lengths women would go to regain control over their lives. The stakes of breaking these vows were high. Excommunication loomed as a constant threat, severing ties not only with the church but also with society itself. Physical punishments like flogging and psychological torment, such as isolation, were common penalties for those caught defying the rules. Yet, despite the risks, countless nuns continued to push back against the oppressive system that sought to suppress their true selves. Their stories are not merely tales of scandal. They are testaments to resilience and resistance. In a world that tried to silence them, these women found ways to assert their agency, whether through forbidden love, daring escapes, or quiet acts of rebellion. Their courage reminds us that even in the most restrictive environments, the human spirit cannot be fully contained. Through their actions, these rebellious nuns reclaimed their power, challenging the very foundations of the systems designed to control them. One of the most shocking tales from medieval convent life comes from Sister Benedetta Carlini, a 17th-century Italian nun known for her spiritual visions. and her forbidden affair with another nun, Sister Bala. Claiming divine inspiration, they justified their intimacy as part of religious devotion, convincing themselves and others that their love was sanctioned by heaven. Their relationship was both physical and emotional, defying the sacred vows of chastity and obedience. But when the truth came out, Benedetta's world crumbled. She was confined to isolation, her reputation forever tarnished. Yet her story remains a powerful example of how some women found ways to assert their desires even in the strictest confines of religious life. Then there's Sister Joan of Leeds, whose audacity continues to astonish historians today. Disillusioned with the oppressive rules of convent life, she took matters into her own hands, literally faking her own death to escape. She arranged for her body to be paraded in a coffin while she slipped away into freedom. For a time, she lived outside the walls of the convent, unshackled from the vows that had once bound her. Though eventually caught and punished, her daring escape highlights the lengths women went to reclaim autonomy in a world that sought to control every aspect of their lives. And let's not forget Littlemore Priory, where scandal reached new heights. This English convent became infamous for its luxurious indulgences and illicit relationships, shocking even the church authorities. Nuns were sneaking out at night to meet men, breaking every vow they had taken. They disregarded the principles of poverty, chastity, and obedience, indulging in pleasures that stood in stark contrast to the austere life expected of them. When these activities were discovered, punishments were severe. Public humiliation, confinement, and penance awaited those who dared to defy the system. But did it stop them? Despite the risks, some nuns continued to rebel, proving that human nature cannot be fully suppressed, no matter how rigid the constraints. These stories are more than just scandals. They are testaments to resilience, courage, and the unbreakable desire for freedom. Whether through forbidden love, daring escapes, or quiet acts of defiance, these women remind us that even in the most oppressive environments, the human spirit finds ways to rise above oppression. Their actions may have been deemed sinful by the church, but they were also acts of resistance against a system designed to silence them. As we uncover these hidden histories, we honor the strength and determination of women who refuse to let their lives be defined by others. The role of male authority within convents added another layer of complexity to an already restrictive environment. Priests and abbots often held significant power, sometimes abusing it for personal gain. This dynamic created opportunities for forbidden relationships between nuns and priests, blurring the lines between spiritual guidance and personal involvement. Some nuns fell in love with priests, engaging in illicit affairs that defied their vows of chastity. These relationships were not only seen as sinful, but also threatened the strict hierarchy of religious life. When discovered, both parties faced severe consequences, including excommunication or public disgrace. Punishments for breaking vows were harsh and designed to instill fear and obedience. Public floggings were common, intended to purge sin through humiliation and serve as a warning to others. Nuns who engaged in forbidden acts were whipped in front of their peers, a chilling reminder of the church's authority. Solitary confinement was another form of punishment, isolating offenders from the community and denying them the comfort of communal prayer. This psychological torment aimed to break spirits and force repentance. The lack of food and human contact further intensified the suffering, leaving many scarred physically and emotionally. Yet despite these brutal penalties, some nuns continued to resist. Why? Because human nature cannot be fully controlled. No matter how oppressive the system, desires and emotions persist. For these women, rebellion was not just about defiance. It was about reclaiming their autonomy in a world that sought to suppress it. Whether through secret love affairs, quiet acts of resistance, or daring escapes, they found ways to assert their humanity. Their stories highlight the resilience of the human spirit and the unbreakable desire for freedom and self-expression. Even in the face of extreme punishment, their actions remind us that true independence can never truly be contained. The lives of these rebellious nuns reveal a powerful truth. Even in the most oppressive circumstances, women found ways to assert their power and agency. They may have been deemed sinful by the church, but their actions were acts of resistance against a system that sought to silence them. Whether through secret love affairs, daring escapes, or quiet defiance, these women refused to let their desires and ambitions be extinguished by rigid rules and societal expectations. These stories aren't just about scandal. They're about resilience, courage, and the unbreakable desire for freedom. In a world where their voices were meant to go unheard, these nuns spoke loudly through their actions. Their rebellion wasn't merely an act of defiance. It was a declaration of independence. Through forbidden relationships, bold escapes like Sister Joan of Leeds faking her own death, or standing up to male authority, they prove that true independence can never truly be contained. These women remind us that no matter how restrictive the environment, the human spirit will always find a way to break free and reclaim its autonomy. Their legacy is one of strength and determination, a testament to the power of the human will. So what do you think? Were these nuns sinners or survivors? Their stories challenge us to rethink the line between rebellion and survival, sin and resilience. These women lived in a world that offered them few choices, yet they found ways to assert their autonomy, whether through forbidden love, daring escapes, or quiet acts of defiance. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did they break the rules out of weakness, or were they simply fighting for their freedom? If you enjoyed this deep dive into medieval convent life, don't forget to engage with the video by liking it, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell so you never miss another shocking historical story. Every like and subscribe helps bring more content like this to light. And if you're intrigued by what we've uncovered today, click Watch Next for even more fascinating tales from history. But our journey doesn't end here. What other secrets lie buried in history? Stay tuned as we continue to explore the hidden lives, untold stories, and unexpected truths that shaped the past. There's always more to discover, and together, we'll uncover it all. Thanks for watching.